What would you do if you survived a stroke, only to discover the one soul who never abandoned you had been sold for cash by your own daughter? Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional family stories with powerful endings, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Now let me tell you about the day my daughter sold the only friend I had left. My name is Bennett. I am 74 years old. People often say that old age is lonely. They're wrong. Old age isn't lonely. It's quiet. There is a difference. Loneliness means no one is there. Quiet means the people you love slowly stop making time for you. My wife, Margaret, used to fill every room in our little house with laughter. After cancer took her 9 years ago, the silence moved in. At first, I thought I could handle it. I kept myself busy. Coffee on the porch every morning. Working in the garden. Reading one of Margaret's favorite books before bed. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. My doctor looked at me during a routine appointment and said something I never expected to hear. "Edward, I'm concerned about your balance." I laughed. That's what happens when you're 71. He didn't smile. Instead, he ordered more tests. A month later, they diagnosed me with a neurological condition that slowly affected my movement. Nothing life-threatening, but enough that living alone became dangerous. That's when Max entered my life. A golden retriever with soft brown eyes, a calm personality, and a habit of resting his head on my knee whenever he sensed I was feeling sad. The organization called him a service dog. I called him family. Every morning, he brought me my slippers. Every afternoon, he reminded me to take my medication. Every evening, he sat beside Margaret's old rocking chair while I talked to a woman who was no longer there. Some people thought I was talking to a dog. They were wrong. I was talking to the last piece of my family that still listened without judgment. Max never cared how old I was. He never cared how slowly I walked. He never cared how many times I repeated the same stories. He simply stayed, day after day, year after year. Unlike most people, especially my daughter, Sarah. Sarah was 45, successful, always busy, always rushing somewhere. Whenever she visited, she never stayed longer than 20 minutes. She'd kiss my forehead, ask if I needed groceries, check her phone 6 or 7 times, then leave. She always ended every visit the same way. "Dad, you really should think about assisted living." I always answered the same way. "I'm not leaving this house." She'd sigh, shake her head, then drive away. But Max never tried to change my life. He simply made it easier to live. Sometimes, late at night, I'd look at him sleeping beside my chair and quietly whisper, "You're the reason I still wake up every morning." He'd lift one ear, open one sleepy eye, then wag his tail without standing up, as if to say, "I know." 3 weeks ago, everything fell apart. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was making coffee. Max was lying beside the kitchen table. The weather forecast promised sunshine. For the first time in weeks, I planned to trim Margaret's rose bushes. I never made it outside. Halfway across the kitchen, my coffee cup slipped from my hand. It shattered against the floor. I tried to bend down. My right leg refused to move. Then, my arm. Suddenly, half my body felt as heavy as stone. Max jumped to his feet instantly. He barked once, twice, then ran toward the emergency phone mounted beside the hallway. He had been trained for moments exactly like this. I remember trying to call his name. Nothing came out. The room tilted sideways. The last thing I saw, before everything turned black, was Max pressing the emergency button with his nose, then lying beside me, whining softly, refusing to leave my side. When I opened my eyes, the world smelled like disinfectant. White ceiling, hospital lights, slow, steady, beep, beep, beep. A nurse noticed I was awake. "Welcome back, Mr. Bennett. You've had a stroke." Those 4 words changed my entire future. The doctor explained that I was lucky, very lucky. Max had activated the emergency alert less than 2 minutes after I collapsed. The ambulance reached my house quickly. Another 15 minutes, and I might never have opened my eyes again. I smiled through tears. "Can I see my dog?" The nurse smiled. "Soon. Your daughter is taking care of him." Relief washed over me. Sarah had finally stepped up, or so I believed. I had no idea that while I was learning how to walk again, the biggest betrayal of my life had already begun. The first 3 days passed in a blur. Doctors, therapists, nurses, medication. Every morning began the same way. Let's see if you can move your right foot today. Some days, it moved. Some days, it didn't. Recovery wasn't about strength. It was about patience. And patience becomes difficult when your entire world is waiting outside a hospital room. The one thing that kept me going was knowing Max was waiting for me. Every night before I fell asleep, I imagined him lying beside the front door, ears alert, tail wagging the moment he heard my truck pull into the driveway. That picture gave me hope. Sarah visited every afternoon, always carrying coffee, always smiling. Too much. Looking back now, that should have been my first warning. Dad, the doctors say you're making great progress. I'll be home before you know it. She squeezed my shoulder. You just focus on getting better. I smiled. How's Max? Her answer came almost too quickly. Oh, he's fine. Still stealing socks. She laughed. You know him. It sounded convincing. At the time, I believed every word. A week later, the rehabilitation center became my temporary home. Learning to walk again at 74 is one of the most humbling experiences a person can face. A little girl no older than 8 was learning to use her left arm after a bicycle accident. She practiced beside me every morning. One day, she looked up and smiled. You're getting faster. I laughed. I hope so. She pointed at my walker. My grandpa uses one too. Children never judge weakness. Adults often do. Every evening, I'd ask the nurses the same question. Any pictures from my daughter? Sometimes Sarah sent one. Max lying in the backyard. Max sleeping on the couch. Max beside the fireplace. Every picture made me smile. Until one afternoon, something strange caught my attention. The date. The picture had been taken 2 months earlier. I recognized the flower bed. Margaret's tulips were still blooming, but they had died weeks before my stroke. I frowned. When Sarah arrived that evening, I showed her the picture. Sweetheart, when was this taken? She glanced at it for barely a second. Oh, my phone mixes old photos with new ones sometimes. She laughed awkwardly. I must have sent the wrong one. It sounded reasonable. I let it go. I wish I hadn't. 10 days after my stroke, my therapist finally smiled. Edward, I think you'll be able to go home next week. Home. The word warmed my heart. I can't wait to see Max. Sarah looked away. Only for a moment. But I noticed. You okay? She forced another smile. Of course. I'm just happy you're recovering. Something in her voice felt different. Almost nervous. That night, sleep refused to come. Around midnight, I wheeled myself toward the hallway for some fresh air. The rehabilitation center was quiet. Most patients were asleep. As I passed the nurse's station, I heard 2 staff members talking softly. His daughter comes every day? Yeah, but I've never seen the dog. I stopped. The other nurse answered. She says he's staying with friends. Friends? Sarah had never mentioned friends. The conversation ended before I heard anything else. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe not. For the first time, a small knot of worry settled in my stomach. The following afternoon, Sarah arrived carrying my favorite blueberry muffins. She kissed my forehead. Guess what? The doctor says you'll probably be discharged on Friday. I smiled. Then Friday can't come soon enough. I miss my own bed. She nodded. And Max. Her smile disappeared. Just for a second. Then returned. Yes. Max too. Again. Something wasn't right. I could feel it. But I couldn't explain it. Friday morning finally arrived. The nurses packed my medication. The therapist reviewed my exercises. The doctor shook my hand. You've worked hard. I think you're ready. Sarah pulled the car around. As the orderly wheeled me toward the exit, my heart raced. Not because I was nervous. Because in just a few minutes, Max would be waiting. He always waited. Rain. Snow. Didn't matter. He always knew when I was coming home. The automatic doors opened. Fresh air filled my lungs. Sarah helped me into the passenger seat. We started driving. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 20. Neither of us spoke much. Then we turned onto Maple Street. My home appeared at the end of the road. Exactly as I remembered it. The white porch. Margaret's roses. The old oak tree. Everything. Except one thing. The front porch was empty. I frowned. That's strange. Sarah kept both hands tightly on the steering wheel. What is? Max always waits outside. He probably didn't hear us. Maybe. I wanted to believe that. She parked in the driveway. My heart pounded. She opened the front door. The house felt different. Too quiet. I smiled anyway. Then I called the one name I'd been waiting weeks to say. Max. Silence. I laughed softly. Come on, buddy. Nothing. No paws racing across the wooden floor. No excited barking. No wagging tail. Only silence. A silence so heavy. It made my chest tighten. I turned slowly toward Sarah. Where's Max? She didn't answer. She simply stood there, staring at the floor. For the first time, fear replaced hope. I asked again, more quietly. Sarah, where's my dog? Sarah's lips parted, but no words came out. For several seconds, the only sound inside the house was the old grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Tick, tick, tick. I slowly gripped my walker. Sarah, I asked you a question. Where's Max? She took a deep breath, then forced herself to look at me. Dad, I'm so sorry. Those 4 words made my heart sink. What happened? She swallowed hard. He ran away. I stared at her. What? She nodded quickly. 3 days after you went into rehab, I accidentally left the back gate open. He got out. We searched everywhere. I even put up posters. He never came back. I felt the room spinning. No. I whispered. No. She stepped toward me. I know how much he meant to you. I backed away, as much as my weak legs would allow. No. You're lying. Her eyes widened. Dad, I'm not. I pointed toward the kitchen. Max doesn't run away. He was trained. He knew this house. He knew me. He waited outside grocery stores without moving. He sat beside me for hours. He crossed busy streets only when I told him to. He wasn't just a pet. He was a certified service dog. He would never leave me. Sarah looked away again. That tiny movement was all I needed. She wasn't telling me the truth. I slowly walked through the house. Everything looked exactly where I had left it. Margaret's rocking chair. My books. Family photographs. Then I reached the hallway. Max's bed. Empty. His favorite blue blanket. Gone. His food bowls. Gone. His leash. Gone. I froze. People searching for a missing dog don't throw away his belongings. They keep everything exactly where it is. Because they believe, one day, he'll come home. I turned slowly toward Sarah. Where are his things? She hesitated. I packed them away. Why? They made me sad. Her answer felt rehearsed, almost memorized. I knelt beside the empty corner where Max always slept, running my fingers across the wooden floor. There were no scratch marks, no dog hair, nothing. Someone had cleaned everything, too perfectly, almost as if Max had never lived there at all. That evening, I couldn't eat. The house felt empty. Not because Margaret was gone. I'd learned to live with that pain. This was different. Every room reminded me. Someone was missing. Someone who should have greeted me at the door. Around sunset, there was a gentle knock. Frank Wilson, my next-door neighbor. He carried a casserole dish in one hand. Welcome home, old friend. I smiled weakly. Come in. The moment Frank stepped inside, he looked around, then frowned. Where's Max? I looked toward Sarah. Before she could speak, I answered. Apparently, he ran away. Frank's eyebrows lifted. Ran away? Sarah nodded quickly. Yes. Frank remained silent. Long enough for me to notice. He wasn't surprised. He looked confused, as though he'd just heard something impossible. After Sarah went upstairs to answer a phone call, Frank leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Edward, can we talk outside? The evening air felt cool against my face. Frank waited until the front door closed, then looked directly into my eyes. I don't think Max ran away. Every muscle in my body tightened. What do you mean? I saw a truck. What truck? A white pickup. The Saturday after your stroke. I frowned. What about it? It stopped in your driveway. I thought maybe family was helping. But then, he hesitated. I saw 2 men. They loaded a large dog crate into the back. My breathing became uneven. A crate. He nodded. And Max was inside it. The world seemed to stop. What? He wasn't barking. He wasn't fighting. He just kept staring toward your front door. Frank looked down. I'll never forget those eyes. He looked like he was waiting for you. I gripped the porch railing so tightly. My knuckles turned white. Did you see who they were? I'd never seen them before. But I did see Sarah talking to them. My heart pounded. No. Frank slowly nodded. Edward. I think she gave Max to them. My knees nearly gave out. I lowered myself into the porch swing, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to accept what I had just heard. Frank quietly reached into his jacket pocket. I wasn't sure whether to show you this. He handed me a folded sheet of paper. It wasn't a missing dog poster. It was a receipt. Printed. Official. Across the top. In bold letters. Sunrise Pet Adoption and Sales. Below that, one line caught my attention immediately. Golden Retriever. Male. Age 6. Purchase price. $4,500. Buyer signature. Daniel Harper. Seller. The next line had been blacked out with a marker. But not completely. Under the dark ink, one name was still faintly visible. Sarah Bennett. I could no longer deny it. My daughter hadn't lost Max. She hadn't searched for him. She hadn't cried over him. She had sold him. For $4,500. I closed my eyes, trying to stop the tears. But they came anyway. Not because someone had taken my dog. Because the last member of my family who loved me without asking for anything in return had been treated like furniture. Sold. While I was fighting to walk again. Just then, the front door opened. Sarah stepped onto the porch. She looked from Frank to the receipt in my trembling hands. The color drained from her face. She whispered only one sentence. Dad, I can explain. Sarah's face turned ghostly white. Her eyes locked onto the receipt in my shaking hands. For a moment, she didn't move. She didn't breathe. She simply stood there, as though every lie she had carefully built was collapsing in front of her. Frank quietly stepped back. This is between you two. He walked down the porch steps and disappeared across the street, leaving only my daughter and me. Sarah slowly walked toward the porch swing. Dad, please, let me explain. I looked at her, not with anger. Not yet. Just disappointment. The truth. That's all I want. She lowered her head. I didn't have a choice. I laughed. A quiet, heartbroken laugh. You always had a choice. She shook her head. No, you don't understand. My business was falling apart. I was drowning in debt. The bank was about to repossess my office. I needed money. I stared at her. So, you sold my best friend? Tears rolled down her cheeks. I thought he'd go to a good family. He wasn't just a dog, Dad. He was worth money. Those words hit me harder than the stroke ever had. Worth money, I whispered. Max pulled me across icy sidewalks when I couldn't walk. He woke me up when my blood pressure dropped. He stayed beside your mother's hospital bed every single day until she died. He slept outside my bedroom door every night because he knew I was afraid of dying alone. I looked directly into her eyes. And you looked at him and saw a price tag. She couldn't answer because she knew it was true. I slowly stood. Every step still hurt, but somehow the pain in my legs no longer mattered. Where is he? She wiped her tears. I don't know. I took another step. Don't lie to me again. I really don't know. I sold him through an agency. They handled everything. You have the buyer's information. No, I don't. The paperwork only showed an order number. I unfolded the receipt again. There, printed in small black letters, was a phone number. Sunrise Pet Adoption and Sales. I looked at Sarah one last time. If anything has happened to Max, I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. Without another word, I walked back into the house. That night, sleep never came. Every creak in the hallway sounded like paws on the wooden floor. Twice, I caught myself smiling, thinking Max had finally come home. Twice, I opened the bedroom door, only to find an empty hallway. Around 2 in the morning, I walked into Margaret's old sewing room. Most people called it storage. To me, it was where memories lived. Photographs covered the shelves. Birthday cards, Christmas ornaments, old family albums. Then, I noticed something strange. One picture frame was missing. I frowned. It had always stood beside Margaret's wedding portrait. A picture of Sarah, 8 years old, holding Max as a puppy. I searched every shelf. Nothing. When Sarah had sold Max, she hadn't just removed him from the house. She had started removing every reminder that he had ever belonged there. That realization broke me, not because she sold him, because she wanted to erase him. The next morning, at exactly 9 o'clock, I dialed the number printed on the receipt. A cheerful woman answered. Sunrise Pet Adoption and Sales. How may I help you? My name is Edward Bennett. My daughter sold my service dog while I was in rehabilitation. I need to know who bought him. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, sir. We cannot release customer information. He wasn't her dog. He was mine. I'm very sorry. It's company policy. I closed my eyes. My dog saved my life. I just want to know he's safe. There was another long pause. Finally, the woman spoke more softly. Can you hold for a moment? She smiled. I missed him. So did I. She simply sits with us. And honestly, sometimes, silence is the best apology. I've learned something through all of this. The people who truly love you will never measure your value by what you own. They'll measure it by how much they'd miss you if you were gone. Money can buy almost anything, but it can never buy back a loyal heart or the years wasted chasing the wrong things. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments. What would you have done if someone you loved had betrayed your trust, but genuinely wanted a second chance? My name is Edward Bennett. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you again in the next story.